Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kathe Skinner.
David Skinner.
We're from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Haven't always been in Colorado. Both our dads were military, and that's actually how we met. How many years ago? Oh, don't say. Suffice to say, we were little kids.
We were in the second grade at the first time that we.
That's right.
Although we didn't know each other back then.
Our parents
did.
Yeah. My mom and his mom bowled together. And then when we moved from Massachusetts to Omaha, you convinced your parents to follow me. to follow
Right,
us.
yeah.
But anyway, they were stationed in the same place at the same time again. And we have, as nerdy as only 7th graders then could be, we have a picture of the two of us in the same 7th grade class, which is horrific. This is like blackmail material. Fast forward 18 years, I got married and divorced. I was diagnosed with MS, and I get a card. Oh, no. You had driven down from Denver, where you were going to school.
I would go back to see my folks Christmas time, and then there would always be the cards out there from their friends, Christmas cards.
Right.
And they always exchanged information and Christmas cards with Kathe's folks. So there was one from Kathe's mom that explained that she had been through a divorce and had been diagnosed with MS and was going through some tough times and so forth. And so I read that and well, found it interesting and didn't contact you right away.
Well, it was kind of serendipitous because he was sitting on the sofa, and on the coffee table next to him were a stack of Christmas cards and Christmas letters and photos and everything else. And my mom's to his mom was on the top. And he picked it up and read it, and that's where he discovered all those stuff. Oh, and then he remembered this blonde surfer girl cheerleader kind of person that he thought I was. And so he wrote me a note. And
no, actually, that didn't happen at, or did that?
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
yes, it did.
Actually it did.
Don't do revision.
I wrote her, yeah. This is where we had our first disagreement, is that I thought I sent her a card that was just a nice card that said hi and so forth.
It had purple violets on it that
she
said
thinks,
get well.
Yeah, she thinks it was a get well card, as if you can get well from MS.
Or a divorce.
But it wasn't. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So yeah. And what was your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction didn't come until later because we corresponded, and I thought it was really dull. And
you thought I was what?
No, I thought you were a forest ranger.
Forest ranger.
Lived in Colorado.
And
everybody in Colorado, of course, is a forest ranger or a cowboy. And I knew you weren't a cowboy. Well, anyway. So we corresponded, but then I kind of stopped. He says we corresponded for a year, but that's okay. He can have his truth. And I determined that here's another dull person. I did not need another dull person in my life. So I stopped, and he didn't know that. Get a card from him that says I'm going to be at MIT for a conference. Can I stop and visit? And I thought, son of good friends of my parents, I can't say no.
Yeah, you were living with your parents at that time.
Anyway.
So that's what happened.
I wanted out. That's why I married him. But that gets handled straight. But anyway, he did stop and visit. That was April 5th, 1987, and we were married.
1986.
1986. We were married 5 months to that day.
The biggest challenge came after that was just the reality of setting in, because it seemed fated all along through the years that we would be together. Yeah. But even we didn't really even know why. Like the first night, we were together in Massachusetts. I think you said.
I said what I asked you what you wanted.
Yeah, yeah, and I turned it around and asked you what you wanted.
I learned he does that. And my answer was, I don't know you, I don't like you because I don't know you, but I think we need to be married. And we've been married almost 25 years. And it's been hard because, for me, it's been hard because this whole fairy tale kind of thing, this, happily ever after that all us girls who grew up on Disney, I guess all girls grow up on Disney anymore, believe. And, here was this guy that I'd waited my whole life for. And it was just astounding. And to want to stab that person to death in his sleep. I got angry at him. When he made me mad, it just really floored me that I could be so angry and dislike somebody I loved so much. And I didn't understand that, only in context of divorce. And so it was very confusing. That was very hard, and I don't think you even got it. I don't even think you knew.
There was a lot of stuff that I didn't get because that was my first marriage, and so it wasn't. Got married for the first time at age 37, and so it was completely brand new to me. And so even though I knew that we were fated to be together and it felt right and everything else, we were to be together, but I didn't know how to be together, how to live together, to get along.
And what was your biggest source of conflict?
Misunderstanding and just communication, just understanding, because I'm very kind of a quiet, private person to begin with.
And stubborn.
Still am a nerd.
And stubborn.
But yeah, and
me too.
And even for me, understanding how to express and understand, because I'd been alone and in myself for so long, how to understand what it was that I wanted, what I needed, and then be able to express that to her.
So Kathe, when you got so angry, what kinds of things would you be so angry about you wanted to stab him in your sleep?
Not my sleep.
That
was my defense. It was in my sleep. That it was just this sheer overwhelming frustration at not being heard and not being understood. And this sense of entitlement, almost the sense of entitlement that because he understood me so well on so many levels, that he ought to understand me on all levels. Yeah. And that he didn't, and that was just this. It didn't connect at all.
Yeah, and a lot of times, I mean, we could finish each other's sentences, and we could understand what we were thinking without saying it, and which was great for me in situations. But in others, in very simple ones, it would be, okay, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain it? And she wouldn't be able to, or I wouldn't understand it. I wouldn't pick it up. It's it's almost like one of those things you say, well, if she was upset or something, and I would say, well, what's going on? Why are you upset? Kind of the old joke. Well, if you don't understand what the problem is, then I'm not going to tell you. Because you should. If we're like this, then you should understand it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's just a lot of frustrating how it could go from so extremes, from us being so close together on some things, and at times to be just being like strangers at other times.
And
so how did you resolve this?
Well, I think that knowing the configuration of what a healthy couple looks like, that there's really only a small part of the two of us that is shared. That so much of who we are is ourselves. But that conjointness, that togetherness is so overwhelmingly important to who we are as individuals, that we're forever linked in that way, but not completely linked. And for me, that was the hardest part. I mean, it was like a meteor hit me one day that I realized that the person in charge of making me happy was me. And it wasn't him. And for years I expected that it ought to be him because he made me happy on so many levels. And that I could, like he said, the extremes, that I could want to stab him in his sleep, but you know, on other levels, that how could somebody who loved me so much make me so unhappy? And that was very, very difficult, very difficult.
Yeah, yeah. And you had asked, you know, how did we resolve it? Well, from my standpoint, we still haven't resolved it as something that says, okay, everything is fine and it's going to be live happily ever after, like the Disney stuff that she mentioned. It's an ongoing process. It's forever. But I think a big thing is that we started learning some communication skills. We learned that we're different in the way that we communicate. We learned that we speak different languages. We learned, and we started to learn how to overcome that, how to speak each other's language and follow some processes, some rules that help us with that.
So did you read a book? Did you take a workshop?
We teach a course. Well, actually, we
started with
I took a workshop for my practice, and then I talked to him about it, and he took the training the year later, and we began teaching it. And when we started to teach it, the first thing I thought to myself was, he gets it. he couldn't cop out on that whole thing because he demonstrated that he got it. And we harken back to those skills all the time, just all the time. And we don't do it perfectly. I don't think anybody ever does it perfectly. We know when we need to break apart. I think we've learned that being together and loving each other doesn't mean that we're smushed together, and doesn't mean that we always agree. And being strong personalities, both of us, and both of us very stubborn, that was always a big source of contention for us. And you know, and it's okay. Sometimes it rears its head, but
yeah, we're strong and we're stubborn, but in different ways, and in ways that push each other's buttons, and so that's why it's really easy to fall into old habits. But
and learning how to make those differences work for us instead of working against us. Mm-hmm. And that's hard because both of us want to win, both of us want to be right. Both of us, from our own experience, are right, but it's that joint experience that really matters, and so that's what we work on developing. I remember, and I think about this so often, before I became a therapist. Remember when we were first married, you had some EAP sessions, some mm-hmm. employee assistance sessions,
right? And
we went to a therapist, and I'll never forget sitting on her couch. She said, "It's so clear that the two of you love each other so much." And I don't remember another thing that she said, and it doesn't matter, because it gave me tremendous certainty about the fact that it was obvious that we loved each other, and that and the truth of it is that's hard. You know, that's not this natural thing, and that relying on the fact that we love each other so much, because we do, and it can get forgotten so quickly. Life happens, stuff happens.
Well, it's like when you feel like you got to stab me in my sleep or something. Same kind of a thing is that.
I love you a lot.
Yeah, I love you. Mm-hmm.